Hey guys, and welcome back to my video essays, I guess. Whatever we're calling this. Today, we're going to be talking about a dead game. Payday 3. Now, maybe I'm hyperbolizing a bit by calling it a dead game, but looking at the numbers, I'm sorry, man. I can't in good conscience say that this game isn't at least on life support. I mean, for God's sake. Its price was cut completely in half, and now it's on sale for $12. That doesn't happen because the publishers just feel like being charitable that day. Because of the price cut, I just recently acquired this game, and this video was originally going to be a review, since I wanted to see how it stacked up to Payday 2, since, while I wouldn't say Payday 2 is one of my favorite games, it's up there. I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing it. In fact, my first summer in college, it was the only game I would play with my friends. About 3 hours into playing, though, I started realizing that Payday 3 is not a bad game at all. I'd say it's definitely comparable to Payday 2 in quality, if not slightly worse, but I still think the changes that they made to the gameplay, even if they weren't objective improvements, were still pretty interesting. I liked the new lockpicking. I think the overkill weapons are cool, despite the fact that I never use them. The gunplay's serviceable. I like that there's advanced movement technically. So, what happened? To put it bluntly, it was the content drought, as well as the poor launch. See, some games can bounce back from a content drought / poor launch. Take Apex Legends, for example. So Apex had a pretty good launch, all things considered. It's just that as soon as the game came out, Respawn put all their resources elsewhere because there was a severe content drought. So much so to the point where a lot of people dropped the game because nothing was being done with it. Of course, Apex eventually bounced back and is now dying again, but that's a topic for another video. And I'm not saying Payday 3 can't bounce back, but it's not looking good. God damn it. So as you all know, I'm a very big fan of COD Zombies, so I understand content droughts. My god, the wait between Firebase Z and Marauder Toten was excruciating. And then once Cold War's life cycle ended, having to wait 4 years for another game, one that I don't even like. It's safe to say, games can get stale if there's not a flow of content, especially if they're live service games. A lot of boomers will say oh, back in my day, games came out with all of the content they'd ever have on disc, day one. And that's a fair argument, but with live service titles in particular, there is an active promise that there will be more content, so it encourages excitement for what's next, which can make what's currently there not as exciting. And this is exactly what happened with Payday 3. Couple that with the horrible launch, as in not being able to find a server, ergo not being able to play the game, and also taking a year and a half to add an unready button, which I don't know how you do that. That's just, Payday 2 had an unready button. How do you... So yeah, coupling the horrendous launch with the content drought, the game's not gonna do well. And it didn't. It's especially ironic, considering that when Payday 3 dropped, they added hoodies that said dead game on them to Payday 2, and now Payday 2 has a higher player base. Which is irony that you can't make that up. Oh my god. But this all brings me to the topic of today's discussion. Despite the mismanagement, Payday 3 is a good game. Therefore, does it really deserve to be as irrelevant as it is? Because it's by no means the game's fault that it's doing so poorly. But at the same time, players can't be expected to just keep playing the same game if that game is actively boring them. I sort of touched on this earlier, but live service games need to keep players constantly engaged. That's why battle passes exist. That's why seasons are a thing. It's a constant stream of content, and it keeps players engaged, so long as the content is substantial. Looking at the Steam updates page, most of the major updates happened months apart, so it's pretty easy to see that the devs weren't really doing much. So you can't really expect your player base, who love the previous title to move on to the sequel, and the sequel doesn't have anything to offer them. Sure, Payday 3 is a more refined experience, but Payday 2 has more content with marginally worse mechanics. Not even really enough that I'd consider to be a substantial drawback. So Payday 3 doesn't necessarily deserve to be hated, but you can't also get people on board with pity. The publishers and the devs made their bed, and now they have to lie in it and accept that Payday 2 is just more popular with players. And honestly, I think this could be good for the industry. I mean, how many times have games launched with bare bones content and game-breaking bugs that make it unplayable? In recent years, so many games have been released with the philosophy, release it broken, we'll fix it later, God. Or if you're Bethesda, release it broken, and then mods will fix it, and then we'll release an update to disable all those mods because we're mad about it. But with Payday 3 performing as poorly as it has, this could show higher-ups in the industry that this isn't an acceptable business model. It's not consumer-friendly, for sure, but it's also not profitable anymore. Hopefully. Thank you all for watching. This is my now third video in collaboration with SavePoint, and I hope you guys are enjoying this little project. Bye-bye.